Well, the New York Times is reporting that President Trump secretly signed a directive to the Pentagon to begin using military force against certain Latin America drug cartels. There's no sourcing in this story, so we're going to take it with a grain of salt because it is the New York Times after all. But is there any truth to this? Would the U.S. launch ground forces against the cartels? Drone strikes maybe on drug labs, maybe carry out missions on cartel leaders. We don't know what this means. It literally could be anything. We know the cartels are very sophisticated. We know they have drones. We know they have tracking software. Is this a war we're even prepared for? The Times said this is tricky because it would raise legal issues, including whether it would count as murder if U.S. forces acting outside of a congressionally authorized armed conflict were to kill civilians who pose no imminent threat. To which I said, LOL. Ever heard of Syria? Yemen? Panama City? Afghanistan? What makes this a concern all of a sudden? I don't understand, but okay, yes, that should have always been a concern. I'm with you on that. Now, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says, no way to this. Absolutely not. No U.S. forces will step foot in Mexico to go after these gangs. Is that because she's on this one? She's handling it?
Yeah, right. Okay.
She's got this? Well, go ahead.
Yeah. Auden Cabello joins us now. He's an independent journalist who's been covering the cartel wars and U.S. involvement. And, we've been covering it here on the show quite extensively. Welcome to the show. And, we hear regularly that no one in the Mexican government is separate from the cartels. So is that why Claudia Sheinbaum is saying no to American forces here? Because these are the people that butter her bread, so to speak?
Well, it's great to be with you. And absolutely, that's one of the things that have evolved throughout the years is that at one point, cartels were local, regional, and now they've evolved to the point where they're intermarried with political parties. They're one and the same. And that's why you see Claudia Sheinbaum defend them the way she does, is because to go after the cartels is to go after the corruption and the politics in Mexico. And it's one of her arguments is that the U.S. would be invading Mexican sovereignty. And there's some of those that have been arguing, well, what about the sovereignty? Where was the sovereignty when Venezuela is in Mexico or Iran and other countries are using Mexico as a springboard to operate into the U.S., whether it's spying or with cartels. There's reports already about other countries operating with the cartels in Mexico, providing technical know-how as far as like the drones you mentioned, armed with IEDs that cartels are infighting using these drones. And now they're being used at the border to supervise or monitor law enforcement. It could be, the day could come where these drones are used against law enforcement, U.S. law enforcement. And so that's the whole argument as far as how intertwined cartels are with politicians in Mexico. And I think it's going to take more for the Trump administration than drone strikes or have intelligence on the ground. I know you had my colleague Todd Bensman a few months ago, who's now with Tom Homan on the Trump administration, talking about ICE agents now getting intelligence in Mexico and with these drones spying over Mexico. I think it's going to take way more than that to really battle these cartels. Somehow the Trump administration is going to have to drive a wedge between cartels and politicians, and also on the cultural front, which, by the way, they're doing a great job on that front by revoking visas to artists that are talking about and glamorizing the cartel lifestyle, even corrupt politicians, either at the state level where the mayors, governors, they're revoking these visas, and it's causing repercussions in Mexico, where now they're turning against each other. And so it's a hard task at hand, but nothing impossible, nothing that the Trump administration can't do.
People are locking in their winter gear right now. And have you guys heard of Bearskin, the Bearskin hoodie? I love these guys. Smart people are locking in their winter gear right now because this is hands down the best time to prep for the coming winter. Bearskin is running a 60% off sale right now if you watch our show, and you can get your hoodie early. That's right. This hoodie is built like a tank. 340 GSM micro fleece, has 10 pockets, clear. It's very rugged, and this thing is built like a tank. It does feel that way too. It feels like this is a man's hoodie right here, the one I'm wearing. They also have ladies' hoodies as well, you should check out. This video you're seeing here, we were in Scotland a few weeks ago, and I was in the middle of a hailstorm, and I wore the bearskin raincoat. This is no joke. This was in Aberfeldy, the beautiful town of Aberfeldy, and a massive hailstorm came out of nowhere. We both had our raincoats, and I was totally dry. This thing is like a beast. It's absolutely fantastic. And you can put the shell right over top of it, so the raincoat shell goes right over top of the hoodie. I love this thing. I really do. I walk the dog all the time. This is going to be my winter hoodie. So the heavy storm rain jacket, 100% waterproof when you need it. When it turns cold, wet, windy, you're not scrambling last minute. So do yourself a favor. Text the word. All you need to do is text the word redacted. Get your phone out. Text it to 36912. to lock in your 60% off for our viewers. Again, text redacted to 36912, and you'll get a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it out later if you're busy right now. Don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Get a bearskin right now, 60% off. Text the word redacted to 36912.
So what do you think of this prospect? I saw an article you had tweeted about how we are preparing for the wrong war because we're not really it's more likely that we would go to war with Mexico than Russia, and we are not prepared for that. So is there any path to success in a war against the cartels?
I think there is, but it has to be on different fronts, not just on economic front, whether with tariffs or diplomatically, revoking visas. I think culturally, that's also a front that has to be approached, and of course, militarily, and not the military strikes that we're all thinking about. Maybe drone strikes on the labs. I think it's going to be more complex than that. Like I said, the drones are already being used to monitor law enforcement on the U.S. side and being armed with IEDs and used against each other in Mexico. And so I think we talk about the border wall. I think cartels are now moving into sea and underground. Here pretty soon we'll be hearing more about tunnels being used to transport drugs. But now, as we mentioned with these drones, now they're going into the air. So I think it's a multifaceted front, not only with military strikes, but I think like I said, culturally, diplomatically, on every front. At this point, Mexico is pretty much lost, and I don't think internally they'll be able to combat the cartels. I think it'll be an external force, and who other than the United States to help Mexico out.
But then what?
One of our viewers says, Go Blue Forever says, we would need more than just special operations. Send the Marines as well. U.S. Air Force, Navy, airstrikes on compounds. I mean, look, I'm vehemently anti-war. I just want to say that. I'm vehemently anti-imperialism, anti the United States invading other countries. That's what our whole show is about. But when we are being invaded by these cartels in the United States, I mean, we are technically at war with these cartels, are we not?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I spent 8 years on the border, living on the Mexican side, covering the border crisis under the Biden administration and covering it from the Mexican side. The whole focus was on the what we call the give-ups, or those seeking asylum, like the Venezuelans and Cubans, Haitians, that would look for Border Patrol and turn themselves in. And while that was happening, we lost sight of the gotaways, mainly Mexican nationals that were sneaking into the country. And which, by the way, they're still doing. I know we focus on Trump's success of the 94% that he's stopped at the border, but I focus on the 6%. Like, who are they? And for the most part, they're the Mexican nationals, the gotaways that are avoiding law enforcement. They're still happening in remote areas here in Texas, whether it's in the Big Bend sector or the Rio Grande Valley. And amongst those are cartel operatives that now they're operating within the United States. They made it in under the Biden administration, and now they're fully operational here in the United States. And so I think this front is not only to go into Mexico, but also here inland, is to combat them here internally. And I know it's rarely reported on, but some of them are even within our law enforcement, our government. And so I think it's a long battle, but like I said, it's possible, and we need a clean house here first, and then take that into Mexico somehow, and drive that wedge between cartels and the corruption in Mexico.
Now, when Claudia Sheinbaum uses this strong language, like absolutely not, you cannot invade Mexico, we would consider this an invasion, there is part of me that I'm embarrassed to admit is like, so what? We did that in Syria. We did that in Iraq. We can do what we want. And this is, like I said, that's not a good attitude to have. But who the heck would stop us, right?
Well, Iraq wasn't invading us. Syria wasn't invading us. These are the wars that we go out and we kill millions of people, and they weren't doing anything to us. But here you literally have them doing something to us. So
right. So my question is, we do what we want. Who would condemn us if we actually did on the basis, the valid basis that we are being invaded?
Israel.
Exactly. So that's a great question. And the answer is, I mean, even if you look, I still have family in Mexico, and I have colleagues, friends, I have business owners, and they're all for Trump, as they say, invading Mexico, because at this point,
Wow.
they feel completely lost. They don't trust the government.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's corrupt. And so if anybody, it's going to be Trump. And they tell me, maybe perhaps after this interview, or every time I do an interview, they'll send me a message and say, if you can, reach out to Trump people and tell them that we support him in invading Mexico and helping us out, because we don't trust our government anymore. They're all corrupt, and they're not going to help us. And so to your point, to your question, I think you're exactly right. I mean, what's to stop the United States to go after these cartels?
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, someone in the chat says, "Oh, so Clayton, then you're a P word. You're a wimp for not wanting to invade other countries." No. Again, I don't want to invade other countries, but when another country that's on our border is literally invading us and putting the crime and destruction and the rape and the child trafficking and the drugs into the United States of America, that is a national security issue. But Iraq wasn't invading us, so I see strong differences there. Auden, great having you on the show. Real treat to have you here. Excellent work, and really appreciate your thoughts on this. We'll have you back real soon.
Absolutely, my pleasure.